The Lean Building Management Capacity is actually a program that has evolved and really developed as a result of the work we've done with many clients. And as Larry mentioned, we have worked with clients in the manufacturing and service industries, education, healthcare, even with respect to government services. And what we found is that there was a problem with respect to organizations executing and finding the time to actually um, fulfill their implementations, their transformations with respect to the lean work they've been doing. So through our experience, what we've found is that the managers are really experiencing an increasingly complex world. In many cases, managers are being asked to take on 2 or 3 roles, wear 2 or 3 different hats. And often, as they work through these roles, as they work through um, the work that they're doing, they often find that there are a lot of multiple and changing priorities that come at them day in, day out. It could simply be the next phone call or the next email that's really challenging them to change directions. And this has both frustrated the organizations, the companies, as well as certainly the management teams themselves and the individual manager. And often what we've experienced is that in many cases, there's really a limited effort that's been placed on addressing the management capacity issue. It's poorly understood. In many cases, we look at it more as a performance issue than we do in terms of it being a fundamental problem with how organizations have, one, organized themselves and really organized the work for their managers. In some cases, companies have tried the time management training. And yes, that works. However, it's limited. In many cases, from our experience, it's not about trying to improve the time management of all the work that we're doing, but it's more about challenging what work should we be doing as managers and what work is really waste. And rather than organize our waste, why don't we look to try to design it out? Some organizations have actually, where they've in a crisis mode, look for point improvement ideas, come to the rescue of a manager or an area, and have looked to deal with the issues that those managers are facing. But often the result of that point improvement is typically just moving the work someplace else. And it's not really addressing the root cause. So our management capacity program is really our effort to work with clients to determine what is the root cause of the issues, and as we look towards driving success through our organizations, we need to really develop our capacity both to support our day-to-day performance and to optimize our day-to-day performance, but just as importantly, to drive continuous improvement efforts. When we look at lean as really 4 elements to a puzzle. The very first element is really the leadership piece, the passion to change, the passion to lead. And from a senior leadership perspective, we're looking for them to set the vision, to set the direction, and to communicate that direction throughout the organization. Once that is set and we select lean as a driver for change, it's now about sharing the knowledge, getting the knowledge throughout the organization, throughout the community that is there to support those efforts. And once we give people the knowledge of lean, the concepts, the ideas, the thinking around lean, it's now time to give them some structure in order to actually drive change. Otherwise, we set people up to haphazardly introduce lean ideas and concepts throughout their organization without a structured approach. And often that gives us negligible or unsustainable benefits. So what we're looking for is that third piece. And when we work with clients, we understand or we promote the idea that value stream mapping, enterprise value stream mapping, is really the critical tool to focus our energies and to drive change. With value stream mapping, what we in essence do is we create a current assessment of how things are, a current understanding of the way things are, and from that develop a future plan, and a future plan that really supports the organizational direction and objectives. And with that future plan, it leads us to an implementation, a series of Kaizen type events to drive change. Unfortunately, it's this fourth piece of our puzzle, the execution piece, is where we often fail as organizations. As difficult as the first three may seem, it is actually the execution piece where companies lose track, start to finger point, and in some respects, it's often said we don't have the support of the senior leadership, or the other side of the coin, we hear, geez, we don't have the management commitment that we need to sustain these changes. In reality, what we have is another condition that exists, and really the root cause of that is the workload. Everyone is inundated with work. Even though they are committed to change, they're not in a position to actually make it happen. And that is really where we've identified the management capacity program as the tool for the leadership to use to work with their management team to free up their capacity and provide the resources necessary to actually drive the changes, the implementation plans that we've identified through our value stream mapping exercises. From a management capacity issue, the pressures on managers seems like they're coming from all different directions. As a frontline manager, again, you're seeing changing, unclear priorities thrust upon them day in, day out. Certainly the skill level of managers and their teams come into play, but often have we ever wondered why we have those skill issues? Often it's because we've placed managers into positions without proper training. They've assumed new roles, and we haven't really helped them in terms of how to define those roles and what how they need to participate in order to support the environments that they've been asked to really take responsibility for. Certainly we have time management issues, but most of that time management issue is probably related to a lot of the other pressures that in terms of interruptions and rework that managers face every day. Certainly, as managers, as they're starting to define new roles, they often find themselves faced with the same issue from their staff. We don't have enough time, enough resources to do the job we need to do. And many managers, because they don't actually have time to work through those issues, often simply do the work for their team. And now they've actually consumed more of their own time and are actually putting themselves in a more vulnerable position as managers to support the organization goals and objectives. So to go along with that, we often see unnecessary tasks being done. How many managers run their own systems, their own spreadsheets, their own cheat sheets in order to try to get through the day? Many cases, that's because we haven't provided the necessary skill sets, training, and organized their work so that they can be successful. So as we move through the management capacity program, we need to address a lot of these elements. The program itself is all-encompassing. It certainly looks to the leadership to get things going. And as you see the first bullet up there, leadership needs assessment, that's really where the senior leaders and the program champions come together and look at their strategic plan as an organization. Look to identify where they want to go as an organization in terms of their key performance indicators, in terms of their drivers that they want to focus on to meet the needs of their customers and in order to sustain themselves as an organization. Once they've identified the key drivers, the key value streams that will support those strategic direction or the strategies, then it's time to really create a charter document which says if we need to focus on certain value streams, certain areas within our organization to drive success, what is it that we need? What are the resources we need in order to support that objective? Once we've documented that, defined what that is, it is now pointing us in the direction in terms of what is the management team that is involved in that change, in that drive towards success. And once we identify those managers, they then become part of the program that will actually become engaged in the program and will work through their capacity issues. The management program is not simply about trying to identify who we perceive as poor managers or managers who need the most help. It's really about linking the program to support the organization direction in terms of where they need to go to be successful. It's not about finding blame for managers. It's really about trying to free up their resources so that they can successfully support the organizational direction. And in order to do that, they need to keep sort of focus on what is it that they are trying to achieve as managers. Many of them are there to support an end user. In some cases, that could be an external customer or client. In many other cases, it's simply someone internal to the organization that they are trying to support in terms of the work and what they do on a day-to-day basis. So together, the manager and the end users come together to look at the work that the manager is doing within each respective value stream to determine what is the value and what is the non-value that we're involved with. It is not about reducing the level of service or the delivery of service to the end user. It's really about how can we deliver that service effectively. We strongly recommend that you need a program facilitator to actually tie all of those elements together. The program facilitator has to understand the direction of the organization, has to work with the targeted managers and the end users to work us through this program so that we are driving waste out in terms of better meeting the needs of both our customer and as well as supporting the company. So the program it's not about juggling work. We often, as managers, respond to the pressures, the phone calls, the emails, and they become our priority for the day. It's not about simply responding or reacting to the next fire that comes at us. It's not about being firefighters. It's not about moving work to others. How many of us have been in organizations where we often see work simply being moved from one department to another department? That really doesn't address the root cause of the waste that's in the system. All we're doing is moving the waste around in order to relieve one area of the issues that they have, and we're just moving the problem to another area. Certainly in terms of the work that we do, often we can get caught up in that and internalize it and now begin to eliminate work to satisfy our own needs as managers without understanding our end users. So in order to properly eliminate work from our day-to-day, we need to understand the end user's needs, and we need to position ourselves so that we can successfully reduce our activities, but at the same time better meet the needs of our end users. And ultimately, it's not about blame. It's not about setting people up to fail, but rather it's about organizing the work of our management team so that they can be successful. What the program is, it really is an extension of lean thinking. It's taken the ideas, the concepts of lean, and applying it in the management role, which is above and beyond simply looking at the traditional shop floor or operational area of our organization. It's really about taking the notion of value and non-value added work and applying it to the management team. As we do this, we want to be able to associate the work and activities we do as managers to specific value streams. And by that, what I mean is in many cases, managers are responsible for their own value stream. They're responsible for delivering service, product, whatever that deliverable is to their customers, but also they're supporting other value streams within the organization, such as perhaps payroll, scheduling, our quality management group, engineering. So what are those activities and how much time is being consumed by our managers in support of other value streams? Once we begin to understand this, we really begin to identify the source of the key burners of our time. And once we understand where our time and energies are being spent, it now gives us an opportunity to actually design out those non-value added activities within those value streams. The program ultimately is about trying to develop standard work for leaders. Often we sit there and look at standardizing work for our staff. Very little time, energy, or thought has ever been given to the idea that, geez, even as managers, is there opportunities to standardize what we do? How do we create organizational capability? It's one thing to create a vision and a strategic direction, but that too becomes waste if we don't have the capability to execute. And it's only with that capability can we actually support the strategic direction and at the same time really create the lean transformation that we all are looking for in terms of supporting and focusing on a client culture, a client-based or a client-centered culture. So in terms of the program overview itself, once we've accomplished the strategic definitions, once we've accomplished the idea of where we want to focus as a company, now we want to sit there and look at, okay, where are we going to apply this approach? What are the managers? So we select that management group that will best support the strategic direction, and we now apply the management capacity approach to eliminating waste. The approach consists of a number of steps. First and foremost, we need to really provide a foundation for the managers that are participating. With that, we give them an introduction to lean training session. It really is about defining value. What is value from our customer's perspective? Let's organize ourselves to successfully meet the needs of our clients. And once we've done that, let's also talk about waste. The notion of waste not only has to be talked about in terms of the different types of waste that exists in a lean world, but also what do those wastes mean within the context of being a manager? What are the different types of waste that exist within a management work environment? We're not talking the shop floor, we're actually talking the work that managers do. Once there's an understanding and we've created that foundation, then we work with the managers to actually collect the data. In terms of collecting data, what we're talking about is the managers over a period of time are asked to participate and capture the work that they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. It's not about the anecdotal stories about what we do. What we're trying to actually do is capture what really happens. It is also important to have the managers do this activity. One, for them to get an appreciation and an understanding of what they actually do versus what they think they're doing. Often there's a lot of aha moments for them. And secondly, it's about building trust in terms of the manager owning the process, owning what we're going to change as we move forward. And we want the managers to understand there is no hidden agenda. We really want to understand what's truly happening in your day. And with that, we want to use that information in order to make your world a better place to work in. So once we have all of those activities captured over a period of time, we then bring those managers together and we work with them to really sort the activities that they have captured into value streams. And by that, I mean, what is the work I do that's reflective of the value stream that I own? What is the work that I do that is really supporting another value stream? Again, use the example of payroll, of the hiring process, of perhaps quality or engineering support, whatever. But it's what are those other value streams that I am lending support to, that I am providing work to? So once we've sorted those activities into value streams, it really points or provides us with an understanding of the total time that I spend in each of those value streams as a manager. So once I understand the time that I'm spending by value stream, I now want to get into the value add and the non-value add assessment. Again, we go back to definition in terms of value added being something that our client or customer wants, and non-value added being those wasteful things that we do, that we're currently doing in order to get the job done. So again, by value stream, we sort our activities into value added work and non-value added work. And then to help us develop an implementation plan, a plan for change, we take that non-value added work and we begin to identify it as either pure waste, something I can simply eliminate without having an impact on anyone else. It could be those things that we do as sort of check sheets for ourselves, or spreadsheets that we run for ourselves, even though there's other reports we could be looking at. It's those things that will have no impact on anyone else, and in many cases people don't even know we're doing them. And then there's the incidental waste or the incidental work. This is the work that really becomes part of our implementation plan. The degree of difficulty to design this work out, it varies. In some cases, it's simply about doing a Kaizen event, a rapid improvement event, to really address some of those activities. In other more difficult situations, more complex situations, we will actually have to do a value stream mapping exercise in order to look at the entire value stream and to redesign how we do all of the work, with the intent that ultimately we're going to be designing waste out of our system and out of the manager's time in terms of the work that they do to support that value stream. So when we look at an implementation plan, we're looking at it not so much from the perspective of the traditional reducing lead time and meeting the needs of the client, but we're looking at it also from the context of what is the time we're hoping to free up for those managers. Ultimately, through the implementation plan, we will be freeing hours out of their day. Perhaps we're even saving them hours out of their evenings, and we get to give them their evenings back. But in terms of the time that we can save in the day, we need to figure out what are we going to do with it. If we reduce hours out of our day in terms of activities that we have to do and do nothing, over time, waste will fill in the gaps again. So we have to put in a structured approach to deal with that time, which really lends us to the whole notion of standardized work. What can be standardized as managers? Certainly there are a lot of activities that we do that are fairly structured. There are meetings, there are audits, there are reports that we do. A lot of that can be structured and actually can be scheduled on whether it be a monthly, weekly, or daily basis. We could start framing what our days should look like. We'll never be able to schedule everything 100%, but those things that we can schedule, we need to do. That begins to bring us some structure. That begins to support the whole time management issue, and that begins to identify the opportunities that exist where we can actually schedule time to lead continuous improvement events, to lead mapping exercise, or to participate in Kaizen events. In terms of standard work for leaders, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to bring lean to life in terms of visual controls. As managers, we want to know at a glance, are things working the way they're supposed to be working? if we have problems, how do we learn about them before they become incidents and issues? How do we learn about them early enough that we can engage our teams and, when necessary,
Hello there.
actually
Need a hand with
address
anything, or?
what the issues are, rather than firefighting the same issues time in and time out?
Have a great day.
How do we actually complete some analysis on what the issues are and develop formal responses to those issues? Our goal is really to reduce the time managers spend firefighting and to really put in a more structured environment for them to attack the issues, the day-to-day issues that do come up, so that we're not handling the same repetitive fires day in, day out, and often we're doing so with new solutions. In terms of standard work for leaders, it really supports a true lean management system. It's bringing us back and reinforcing the notion of system thinking. It's creating a stable environment for our managers to work in and for our staff to be successful in. And ultimately, it creates an environment that supports and engages the whole notion of continuous improvement. When we looked at the problems that we have as managers, we talk about complex roles, wearing multiple hats, responsible for multiple areas. The result of a management capacity program should create a more organized and structured role for our managers. In terms of multiple and changing priorities, we should have, as an organization, a focused strategic direction, something that's clear for everyone, something that's clear for our managers, so that they could be making the right decisions and spending their time in the right areas. In terms of a management capacity being misunderstood, what we hope to accomplish through this is we have our work actually documented, the activities documented, and we've created elements of standard work within the role of a manager. Where we have failed to address root causes, what we want is the ability to analyze those activities and to develop which of those activities are truly value added and which are actually wasteful. Our company's success demands increased capacity to support. Result of a capacity program really frees up capacity that exists in order to support continuous improvement efforts, and it only exists if we can attack the waste that currently is happening with each of us in our roles as managers. Where there's stress in today's environment, really what we're trying to do is to provide less stress and really to support our management team in doing the job that they actually want to do. That was really a quick overview of our management capacity program. Tried to achieve that in the 30 minutes that we have. Certainly, if you want to hear more from us, you can email us at our corporate@leanadvisors.com email address, or check out the website leanadvisors.com, or certainly call our 1-800 number. As well, we do have a Talking Lean newsletter. If these programs or like information is of interest to you, join in, sign up for that newsletter. And for those in the Burlington, Toronto, Ontario area, we are having a Lean Executive Day for the healthcare community, for the healthcare executives that we're scheduling for October the 26th, and we'll certainly be talking about management capacity as well as other Lean ideas on that day. I'd like to thank everyone for taking their time to join us today, and we certainly open the floor up to any questions that you may have.